What's up everyone, NewSkill here, coming at you with another hero analysis video. This time I'm going over spell and trap cards. Hero's kind of known for its versatilities with spell and trap cards. Versatility, it's known for a lot of spell and trap cards. Which is why cards like Anti-Spell Fragrance kind of kills this card deck, because it has so many spell cards it needs to resolve here. However, there's a few interesting choices that some hero players decide not to actually play that I'm actually going to talk about here. We're just going to talk about why we play certain hero cards, what they do, and why you might consider or not consider playing them. And we're going to start with Hero Lives. One of my favorite hero cards, honestly, for the sole fact that it unbricks hands, it's a free special summon, free, and let's get into it. Hero Lives, 3 of. Every hero deck plays this 3 of. What it is if you control no face-up monsters, which happens when you first start your turn, pay half your life points, special summon 1 level 4 or lower element hero monster from your deck. Specifically element hero monster. However, you know what's a level 4 lower element hero monster? It's your boy Stratos. So Hero Lives in Stratos, or oops. Hero Lives in Stratos, or Hero Lives in something like Shadow Mist is crazy. It's mostly going to be Stratos because that's how you start your combo, search that way. But that's absolutely crazy and for free, and a lot of people choose to wait on this because they don't know what you're really picking out for it and wait to negate it. And if it Ash Blossoms, you just bait it out for, it's a 1-for-1 combo, and your hero, you're going to have more gas. So this is a must-have, and very specifically, it's not once per turn. Yes, you're cutting your life points in half, but it doesn't matter how much life points you have as long as you have more than 0. So even if you draw 2, one gets Ash Blossom, you just play another one. It's really, really good, and it's a must-have in 3 in every single hero deck. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Another must-have at 3 is actually Fusion Destiny. Fusion Destiny is, I would say, your strongest fusion card in this deck. You play a lot of fusion cards. Fusion Destiny is the strongest one, however, because it is like branded fusion. It's directly from your deck. Send to you fusion summon for a Destiny hero monster. Monsters from your deck to the graveyard, such as I don't know, what would be good to send? Such as Malicious and Denier, which called, and have those two. If you watch my first part of my hero analysis for monsters, you know why you want those in your graveyard. But even then, it's a free fusion summon that way. The only caveat for that, however, is once you do fusion summon like that, you are locked into dark hero monsters. So you can't summon cards such as Sunrise, like those cards are all tributes are now banned to you. Which is disappointing, yes, but which is why a lot of times for this card, it's such a strong, like, after you bait out everything to them, they Ash Blossom Hero Lives, they Ghost Ogre, Ghosts more than the other cards, they're out hand traps. This is actually card follow up because DPE is best in simplified game states, and if they use all their hand traps, all their board to stop you from there, Fusion Destiny right there is crazy because you just get a super strong monster that is excellent on those 1-on-1 situations, and you send 2 materials to your grave that you can most likely use to further your plans, even if you're locked out of non-dark hero monsters. So you always play at 3. Everyone plays at 3, all hero players. That's not up to debate. What is up to debate, however, is our next card, which is Poly. Poly symbol. Poly's been in the game for who knows how, since the beginning, basically. Fusion summon 1 fusion monster in your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as material. It does get more basic than that. Most people have been playing this as 1. I play this as 2. Why? If your enemy knows heroes, they knows how important polymerization is, and when you search out the poly, they're most likely going to negate the search if you can. Therefore, you play 2, because if you draw one into your opening hand, you can still search for the second one. They negate that. Doesn't matter, you already have it. You're just thinning out your deck and getting more resources in your hand. You're almost never unhappy to draw one. And oftentimes you're very happy because it gives you more options to draw one. Heroes always love seeing poly, which is why I keep it at 2. You don't run at 3 because you don't want to see 2 or 3 polymerizations in hand. That sounds like a nightmare. You have no resources. But having 2 hard drawing ones is excellent. And worst comes to worst, you have 2 in your deck now. You search one, you can search for the other one later now, in case you can't loop it from your graveyard. So I personally run it at 2. Most people run it at 1, and I can understand why. Next is something that a lot of people do differently, is your mask changes. This one is heavily debated, very, very heavily debated. What this card does is you target one hero monster, such as Vision Hero Increase, and you can send it to the graveyard to special summon one mask hero monster from your extra deck of the same attribute of the monster. So Increase is a dark, so you would search for a dark mask hero. It's basically another version of poly. And the same thing with other attributes, like let's say you have a wind monster out, like Stratos. Same thing, mask change into a mask hero such as, if I can find you, heaven forbid, such as Blast. A good thing about this, right, is yes, on paper it's just poly, right? A poly, one card poly, which is crazy by the way, 1 card poly. But it also dodges things such as infinite impermanence. Let's say they infinite impermanence you. You can mask change your monster, and since it's no longer on the field, the effect still resolves, and you get a new monster for that too. And what a lot of people do too is they can mask change early into Dark Law. And Dark Law, you can't cards such as Ghost Ogre, which needs to send to the graveyard since it sent banishes cards, which we'll get into the extra monsters. Now you can't get hand trapped by those that need to be sent to the graveyard. So mask change facilitates all that. But the difficulty with this card is how many do you play? I see people running 1, I see people running 2, and I see people even running the 3. The argument for one is you can search for this. Same thing for poly for 1. You can search for it, and since you can search for it, doesn't matter what you're gonna call it. Just play at 1, search for it in your combo, and just pop up from there. Some people, I like to play at 2, because same thing as poly. I'm never unhappy to have this in my opening hand, because it's a infinite imperm dodge. It is a effect failure dodge. It's a nice dodge, and it's not once per turn, so I can do it more than once, which is why I have 2 Dark Claws, so I can keep on mask changing, and I can still search one for my combo. And a lot of people run for 3 for that same exact reason. However, I don't like that because now I think you have too many mask changes. Because yes, while I run 3 mask heroes, you're most likely not going into all 3 of those. And now it's starting to become brick worthy in your hand. I go for 2. Most people go for 1, but you can run it at 3. All of them is viable for this card, which says a lot for how good this card is. But it's a little bit bricky, so just be careful when you actually put it in. Keep going, it's Miracle Fusion. Miracle Fusion is my favorite fusion card in the entire game. Miracle Fusion is, you can fusion 1 element hero, has to be element hero, so no silly DPE from that. Fusion Summon from your extra deck, banishing fusion monsters from your field or your graveyard, which is wild. You only play at one. It's really because, yes, you search for it, but drawing a second one, like having more than one, does nothing for you. Because you're sending your own resources to be banished, and other than one card they will get on, those cards are going to be gone now. It's hard to put them back in the graveyard now. And you do have another way of putting this face down, technically, and to use it again. But this is a strong one-off just because you're going to have to combo to use this card anyway, and you get it from the combo. So unlike Poly, you can't just like rip it where like you break, you need fusion something. Miracle Fusion, you have to have some established board and established graveyard for this to be useful. But when it is useful, it pops off. And the last card for the polys of this deck is Favorite Contact. Favorite Contact is a must-have. Must-have at one. Every card plays it once, and it's a little bit weird. You can special summon, very specific special summon, it's not fusion summon, one fusion monster from your extra deck that mentions a hero monster as material by placing fusion monsters mentioned on it from the field, graveyard, or banished cards back into the bottom of your deck, which is how this is really good for long games because you can put all your banished cards into your deck, or you can just special summon other cards such as your big boss monsters, such as your DPEs, your wake ups for all your cards, or the boss. This is primarily how you get your boss monster, Shineos Wingman out. The final effect on it is if you use it with Elemental Neos, specifically, they cannot bounce that monster back to your extra deck, which is useful occasionally. Because some decks such as Pearly bounce all your cards. If you use this card, now it can't be bounced anymore. It's impervious to that. This is a must-have one of in every single hero deck, not a question. Keep going. Next, we're going into your. There's two more Hero Engine cards that you could use here, which is D-Force and E-Emergency Call. E-Emergency Call is simpler, so we'll start with that first. E-Emergency Call is add one element hero monster from your deck to your hand. It's going to be Stratos. It's most likely going to be Stratos. And it's another start. This is basically another starter to get Stratos to start your combo. It's a Spectral Ash Blossom as all, but most of the time, you don't need this card for the sole fact that you already have so much consistency. This is just another layer of consistency. So, while you can add this, people mostly add this if they start having 45, 47, 50 card decks and they need to add more starters to the deck to add the consistency of the deck up. But most times, I don't run that because of that. And since this is not once per turn, you can run as many you want. You can run this as 1, 2, or 3. It does the same thing. How I choose not to run it. But if you choose to run this at 1, 2, or 3, you're not wrong for it. Because a free search is a free search. Worst comes to worst. Let's say you draw all 3. You get Stratos. You get three different element heroes. Maybe all 3 Stratos. Maybe one Liquid Soldier, one Stratos, one Blazeman. Doesn't matter. There's versatility in this, but I personally don't like running it. And next is something I do like running, D-Force. This is your best friend if you use Plasma a lot. It does a lot, so I'm going to run by quickly. When this card is activated, you can add one Destiny Hero Plasma from your deck to your graveyard to your hand. So it's deck or graveyard, just remember that if you use your Plasma for like a fusion or something. While Plasma is out on the field, these 3 effects happen. You cannot draw during the draw phase, which honestly, if you have Plasma out with this card, you don't need to draw because you're winning that game already. Your opponent cannot target cards you control with card effects, and your cards, so they cannot target your monsters and they cannot target your spell and traps. They cannot target any of your cards with spell trap card effects. That you control. They can still target your graveyard. And the third effect is Destiny Hero Plasma you control gains 100 attack for each monster in the graveyards. So both your graveyard and their graveyard, which is something you need to remember. And also your Plasma can make a second attack per battle phase, which is crazy, considering the fact now it has attack from your graveyard, which is always huge because you're hero, and their graveyard. And Plasma is still Plasma. It is skill drain, and you can still take the monster to make your Plasma bigger. If you have Plasma and D-Force, most of the time the game's just ending. What's called... oh, and also, I almost forgot, Plasma also cannot be destroyed by card effects now. So like Raigeki, stuff like that, it's protection. Like this card is very slept on. I personally love running this. I honestly would run this a 2 of, but I think it's best as a 1 of. And I think you should consider running this as a 1 of. If you think Plasma is just enough, that's fine. Worst comes to worst, this is technically like another copy of Plasma because you're searching for Plasma with it. But that's why I run it for the 1 of. Next, you have all your off-engine cards, right? Spell and trap cards, which I think is more important because for heroes, you don't really have off-engine monster cards. You have maybe Ash Blossom if you feel like running it, but it's Ash Blossom. You have Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial, send 1 monster from your deck to your graveyard. For that, you're almost always 99.9% of the time, you're either going to send your Malicious, your Shadow Mist, or funny enough, your... Oh, if I can find you, oh no. That's not good. Your Crosskeeper, which I have right here, or your Crosskeeper. 99.9% of the time you're saying one of these 3, which I did explain in the last video. This lets you summon more Maliciouses. This lets you summon your Shadow Mist. Oh, also, this is a viable target too if you already have Malicious in your graveyard. That's actually pretty important. You guys search 1 hero monster at your hand, and this is a banish to, if you special summon element hero fusion monster, to draw 2, put 1 to the bottom deck. This is just for Foolish Burial, it's just for consistency really. But one more consistency card that's as versatile as that is very important. And speaking of consistency, you have Reinforced in the Army. Unlike emergency call, right, which is why I'm running Reinforced Army, it's 1 level 4 lower warrior monster. So it could be your level 4 lower Destiny Hero, Vision Hero, Element Hero, even your Crosskeeper. Just 1 level 4 lower warrior monster, which is a lot more versatile, which is why I keep that. Called by the Grave is Called by the Grave. Don't explain that much, but it's target one monster your opponent graveyard banish it, and if you do, the end phase, the effects negated, as well as the active effects on field for the rest of the turn. Skull by Grave, you run it because it's off engine, it's disruption for your opponent's hand traps. Because hero is very weak to hand traps, so you run the Called by the Grave just in case. And you run the 2 Forbidden Droplets. This is a pseudo starter going second. Just because you have a lot of cards you want in the graveyards, like I was saying before. So you can Forbidden Droplet, send those to the graveyard, and so it starts your combo and it negates the board. Good board breaker. Triple attack with talents. You're weak against hand traps. This lets you draw 2 or out more hand traps, which is very important for a hero. So if they activate like a monster effect, you can either draw 2, take control of 1 monster your opponent controls, or look in your opponent's hands and choose 1 card and shuffle into the deck. Very good, very classic. And last, it's the triple infinite permanence. It's infinite permanence. It's a monster negate. You can activate your hand if you have no spell trap cards, or if you activate set, it negates a monster effect, and spell traps in that zone are now negated. And for the last two, this is actually, you run these two for the you're most likely running it in your side deck. However, you can run it into your main deck if you are running Dark Angel in your main deck. Because what these two cards are Goes to Match and Rivalry Warlords. These two cards are crazy, crazy, crazy with Dark Angel, which is why I suggest siding. These three cards are in your side deck, and you side them in when they'll be useful. But Dark Angel with so Goes to Match, I'll explain both of them first. Goes to Match is each player can only control one tribute monster, send all other face-up monsters they control the graveyard. This does do you dirty a little bit, just because you do darks, winds, and lights. However, you could piggyback off of darks if this messes with your opponent enough. Because for some things, if you give them Dark Angel and they're running a light deck and you go to match, they just lose. And the same thing with Rivalry Warlords. Each player can only control one type of monster, send all the face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. Same thing, you give Dark Angel to them, and you activate this. They are locked. They can't even out this now for like Relinquish Anima, because it's not a warrior monster. It goes against the rulings of this to summon, because it like looks in the future of what cards you have to determine if you can special summon that. And I don't know if you know this. Heroes are all warrior monsters. The only not warrior monster in the entire deck is Infernal Devicer, which is something you remember. You can't go into this. It's a fiend. Just remember that. Everything else, Rival Warlord does literally nothing to this deck. But yeah, that's all the spell and trap cards you would run for this deck. It's not as much as the monsters. There's less variety, honestly. But there's still a lot there to consider. And if you have any questions, comment. I always answer all my comments. Subscribe if you can, and I'll catch you all next time. Peace.